Today we have our speakers, Mr. Sridhar Rao and Mr. Milind. So both of you, if you can give a short intro about your background before we start, that'll work. And one more thing before we start, the audience. So as Sridhar Rao and Milind are speaking, you can enter your questions in the Q&A section. So after each section of the presentation, we'll take a look at the questions and we can answer them.
Right. Thank you very much, Rohit, first of all, for inviting me and Milind to this webinar. Thank everybody who's joined in as participants for coming and joining in here. A quick background intro about myself. I am basically a management consultant and a mentor working with startups currently. However, I've had a long corporate career. I've done industries ranging from tractors to paints to textiles, garments, and then eventually a long stint in telecom where I was with Vodafone, Hutch and Vodafone for about 8 years. And I was the CEO of some of their businesses. My last work was as a fintech startup co-founder. I co-founded a startup called NovoPay, which works in the banking space. It's got about 1 lakh outlets across India now, and they do Aadhaar-based banking for the underprivileged people. So that's what I did. I moved out of my role in NovoPay in 2016, and after that, I've been basically working as a consultant and a mentor with startups. And I also run an online learning platform called infinimgrowth.com, where it is meant for people like you, working professionals. So we invite a lot of professionals to write articles. We have now over 200 plus articles and films on topics ranging from personal improvement and development to business management aspects. The idea being that anyone, be a corporate employee or a startup entrepreneur or a startup employee, can benefit from the ideas and experiences of a whole lot of people. So we have over 50 plus people who have written articles. You can kindly check them out whenever you're free. And now, last 1 month, we have launched an online learning platform along with it, where we have training programs for people. So trainers from across India, we are inviting to offer their training programs online, with the target audience being professionals like you. So do check that out also. I'd now like to invite Milind to please give his introduction to.
Thanks, Sridhar. Likewise, it's my pleasure to be a co-panelist with Sridhar in today's discussion. My background is quite similar to that of Sridhar. I have worked in different organizations, from petrochemicals to specialty adhesives and chemicals. And my last assignment was as managing director of Medtronic, which is one of the world's largest medical device companies. I was the managing director for what is known as South Asia, which is primarily India and then the countries in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, etc. as part of that. Over the last several years, I am also mentoring startups. I am part of a venture capital firm called Unitas Ventures. When I say I'm part of that, I'm not an employee there, but I'm more a consultant. I'm what is known as a venture partner. And I help in the entire process of working towards doing due diligence on startups that are interested to take some investment from Unitas, to working with our investment committee to take the investment decision. And then once they get on board, particularly the healthcare startups are the ones that I mentor the CEOs. So it's been a fascinating journey working in large professional organizations to be now in the startup world for the last maybe 5 years or so, and looking forward to our conversation today. Thank you.
Thanks, Milind. So I must also add that along with Milind, I'm also there on United Ventures. So like he does healthcare, I do the fintech startups. I missed that point. Okay, so we'll start with today's topic. And it's basically, I will run you through a presentation as we talk. It's got 3 sections in it. One second. Yep. So it's got 3 sections in it. And what we will do is we will take a pause in between. And of course, one is I would love to have Milind giving his opinions and comments so that, you get 2 perspectives rather than 1. And also at the end of each segment, we will look at the questions that you all have put in so far, and we can then try and answer those before we move to the second segment. So here's the presentation. This introduction, of course, we have already done, so I'll pass this. Let me start by showing you a slide of KPMG's recent report, which talks about where the Indian economy has been. So as of end of September 2019, we were at a growth rate of 4.5%, which already has gone down compared to the very good 7.9 and 7.7 we were having a year earlier. Now, what KPMG says is that there could be 3 scenarios. In the first scenario, if there is a quick retraction across the globe, that means if the COVID issue backs off pretty quickly in the next 2 months or so, including in India, then India will be somewhere between 5.3 to 5.7% growth. However, if India improves, but the world goes into a serious recession, our growth rate may go down to about 4 to 4.5%. And in the third and the worst case scenario, if India gets into serious trouble with more expansion of this whole COVID virus across the country and much more extended lockdowns and the global recession continues, then they said we will be way below 3%. So we looked at one more indicator, and that is IMF. You might have seen this on the newspapers, in the last few days. IMF has said India may likely be closing at about 1.9% positive growth in this financial year. It doesn't look anything good at all. But the only positive thing from what IMF is saying is that if you see this diagram, the left side of the line are all the negatives, and the right side are all the positives. Likewise, the reds are all the countries which are the red color is all for the 2020 figure, and 2021 is in green. India at 1.9% is on the right side, the red line in the right side, which means that India is positive at 1.9, China is positive at 1.2, but the rest of the world is negative at 3%. USA is negative at 5.9, Europe is negative at 7.5, and so on. So this is what the IMF says. So guys, the first point I wanted to make out of this is that things have gone down very badly. But these 2 countries seem to be still able to show positive. I have some viewpoints on this, but I thought, Milind, maybe you could share your thoughts on why you think why the economies of India and China will still look a little better than the rest of the world.
Yeah, sorry, I was just taking the time to unmute myself. I think we have a lot of room to grow. And in my view, the fact that we are experiencing a slowdown is basically temporary. It is temporary because it is coming from these extreme effects of lockdown. And the basic drivers of our economy, which are to do with consumer demand, which are to do with implementing infrastructure projects, etc. They are on a pause. They've not stopped, and therefore, as and when the um, lockdown is removed, as and when the economy starts chugging along, we will soon see some growth rate. Now, the question is really, when will that happen? And I think there's a trade-off between economic health and human health. There are certain countries which are probably prioritizing more on the economic health. Our country, our leadership has taken a decision, rightfully, I feel, to prioritize more on the human health. And these lockdowns and social distancing, etc., are going to help us to flatten the curve, but not necessarily eliminate the problem. And for eliminating problem in the medium term, we will need either vaccines, or we'll need some therapies, or we'll need some kind of herd immunity, and so on and so forth. How long that will take, I mean, it's very, very difficult to predict that, because of the nature of the problem and the size of our country and the fact that we are globally interconnected. But as soon as that is taken care of, to Sridhar's point, I think there is significant pent-up demand that will come to the surface, and we will start seeing the growth engines coming back.
So I have one more angle to look at this, and I'm sort of staying on this slide for a little longer because this is be the basis on which we are going to discuss going forward. India and China are the only two countries in this which are showing positive growth even in this financial year. The rest are negative. Why? Two good reasons, I feel. One, we have huge populations, billions. Two, because of that, we have both the market demand in-house and the ability to make and deliver in-house. So because of all this COVID restrictions, even if export stops and import stops, we are not going to be stopped. In fact, I would say there may be a good coming out of that, because India will suddenly have to push towards more manufacturing to sort of make up for the requirements. And the economy may get actually a good kickstart because of that. You know, we've been talking of make in India, but nobody was making in India because it's easier to bring in from China, everything from electronics to Ganesha idols. But it might stop now and slow down. So it could be a good sign for us. But the fundamental reason is because our dependency on imports and exports is going to be significantly lower than the rest of the world. Let's go to a few more situation showing news reports. Manufacturing is going to open up. They are saying 20th onwards, some amount of manufacturing will start, but it will be a tight controlled thing. There will be more of, a lower number of shifts, lesser number of people sitting a little far away. And in only the green areas, the red, yellow, and green that the government is talking about, the red areas may not start manufacturing, but the green ones at least will start. So manufacturing will come back, but at a significantly lower level than what it is. And it is not that we had a great manufacturing contribution. Our service sector contribution is much higher than the manufacturing contribution to our GDP. So but we will be probably half of where we were in the beginning of this new cycle. This is another indication. 15 million export jobs will be lost because of the COVID blow. Textile sector. I mean, imagine, say, Salem, Coimbatore, etc. So many of these places which are dependent on export are going to lose their jobs, lose their businesses completely because export cannot be done. Workers, we've all been reading about it, workers going back home and all, and then may not be able to come back. So that will also come in the way. Even if the government says, go ahead and start manufacturing, go ahead and start construction, it will take a while. And the virus is also not going away, is what this gentleman told us. it is, and what Milind was also saying, that it's not something that suddenly 14 days and over and lockdown is over and the virus is gone. The virus is still hanging around everywhere. We just need to be extremely careful. So this is where we are today, and yet we are saying, compared to the rest of the world, we will do better. Why? Because digital will come to our rescue. And this, for all the startup entrepreneurs who are on this call today, this is thanks to all of you. It is the IT sector which has been a backbone for our economic growth for the last couple of decades now. It is the IT sector which is one of our biggest assets in this country today. And that sector is going to now really help us come out of troubles. How's that? Let's take a look. Kirana supplying B2B companies are seeing orders rise 60%. So companies like Udaan, Jumbo Tail, Waycool, Ninja Cart, these are all startups which were working as distribution partners for companies and were delivering to the small retailers. India, incidentally, has got 15 million retailers. Typically, anyone who comes out of an agricultural family, the first business he sets up is a retail shop. We have 15 million retailers. China has, I believe, 5 million or so. US has less than 1 million because their focus was more on the large, departmental store, supermarket concept. India was really into this very entrepreneurial, I will put up my own shop funda. And it's going to really be helpful today to us. So one is companies which are able to have apps and are able to work through technology to coordinate between suppliers and shops. They are seeing their business rise. The traditional distributor may not be seeing it. The government is also now telling logistics companies to link buyers with Kirana. So on one hand, Udaan and Ninja Cart and all are connecting the manufacturer to the retailer. The government is now asking companies like Swiggy and Dunzo and all these guys to scale up to deliver orders from Kirana shop to your homes, which means you will still buy, but you will sit at home and the IT-enabled smart startups will do the deliveries. Amazon and Flipkart are planning a big sale in May. And today's newspaper also talks about how government is actually going to allow e-commerce to open up. Now, this again is a good sign for startups who are sort of waiting to take off. Apparel companies, now companies like Arrow, Lee and Levi's and all these brands who were traditionally sitting through their retail chains, suddenly all the shops are closed. So they've also now started moving towards the online game. And soon you will be sitting at home and buying your jeans. Now, while that is happening, the large IT companies like Accenture and a few others have got together to create a platform. They call it People Plus Work Connect. What they're going to do is, some companies are laying off people, some companies are waiting to hire people, even in this situation. They will try to mediate between, this platform will help people find jobs very quickly so that they minimize job losses and at the same time improve efficiency for the economy. And this is another digital to rescue. People who are into drones, etc., have jumped into the game. They are now offering drones to spray disinfectants and robots to do sanitizing. And this is going to, again, become a new way of life, probably. And here, large corporates, this news item says, large corporates will actually seek out much more digital transformation. A lot of companies went through some amount of digital change, but they didn't really go the whole hog. But the conviction is now building in large corporates also that, guys, we can't do things the traditional way. Let's move to the electronic side, the digital way of doing things. And the government is also looking, therefore, at technical solutions so to contain the virus spread. I mean, they've now launched some app which I believe will keep a track of where the patient is, and they want all of us to download the app. Now, many people are criticizing that, but well, the fact is, apps are in vogue, and IT is in vogue. So, and here, even a sports coach is going online to train because there's no other way. So the digital systems, digital organizations, digital businesses will take off. And this is the first good thing that I can share with you as far as startups are concerned. This is your opportunity. This is your big time. Then it's not about, being selfish or greedy. Actually, you're going to do a great job to revive the economy and help people out of their troubles. Mobile app usages have gone through the roof. And what kind of apps? Communication related, payments related, entertainment related are going through the roof. I'm sure all of you are personally also experiencing it everywhere. And search trends are changing. So if people were looking for a gym membership in the neighborhood, they're now looking for online yoga. If they were looking for bars in the neighborhood, they're now looking for home delivery of wine. If they were looking for weekend getaways, they're now looking for puzzles which they can buy. They're looking for living room concerts, TV shows, all sorts of entertainment which can be done at home. So the question is this just temporary, or is this the way life will change? My experience is that things never go back to the old ways. I would share one experience in my startup. We started in 2014 with Aadhaar-based solution for bank account opening and money transfers. And we were doing pretty decent. By 2016 came that famous demonetization. And while a lot of people were cribbing, the fintech industry went through the roof. My startup improved significantly. We were doing 100, 200, 300 crores a month of transactions before demonetization. We have now crossed 1,000 crores transaction per month. That is the big change that technology could capitalize on because of that one big decision that the government took. This decision, nature has taken, government didn't take, of COVID. But technology can take advantage of this whole situation. Milind, you want to say something here?
Yeah, thanks, Sridhar. Completely agree with you in terms of the opportunities that we have in the digital space, in the digital economy. Before I talk about that, let me just go back and talk something that was already happening before this COVID issue came up, and what opportunities maybe that will create with the pandemic coming in. So one of the big changes that we have seen in our lifetime is what China has become for the rest of the world in terms of its importance as a manufacturer of not only low-end products, but now increasingly highly sophisticated, high-tech products like what Huawei makes for 5G telecom and so on and so forth. However, with the trade war that was happening between America and China, already there were murmurs about over-dependence on China. Now with this pandemic happening, significant concern both in countries' minds as well as in the minds of corporations. Are they too invested in China? And I'm hearing so many conversations about opportunities that are there for entrepreneurs and companies in India if they can understand where the gaps are likely to be and how they can meet those gaps. So that's just one other thing that I wanted to speak about. In addition, before we get into the digital area, I think some of the things that we will continue to see increased demand as soon as we get into a little bit more normal lifestyle. Firstly is healthcare. I saw a question on healthcare, but somebody had posted it there, that even today hospitals are going through a bit of a challenge. And they were supposed to be recession-proof, sunrise industry. So what's happening there? And why will it kind of bounce back? I think the point is that this is a forced situation. This is not a normal situation. In fact, health is on everybody's mind, as we know with COVID and so on. I am working with quite a few healthcare startups whose businesses are on a bit of a pause, but like I said, it's not a full stop. And in fact, we are working towards a situation where they can expect a significant bounce back. In fact, in the immediate aftermath of life getting back to normal, they will probably see a spike in demand, which is going to be more than what their normal months are. And it's important for them to be ready with that. Government is going to, I think there are lots of reports. Everybody knows about that. We are one of those countries with one of the lowest per capita investment in healthcare, even amongst the developing countries. And COVID has kind of laid this bare. Everybody can see what the challenges are in terms of infrastructure. And though the government is doing its best, but that is not a long-term solution. So I foresee a significant investment in government, from the government side, in normal healthcare infrastructure, and in particular the area that I came from, which is medical technology, and how new innovative devices will be required more and more to help manage not only what we thought was a kind of India had pivoted away from the so-called infectious diseases, and the focus was more on chronic disease like cardiac, diabetes, cancer, and so on. And now we are saying that, well, infectious disease can continue to be a mass killer, and then therefore we need to find solutions for that. So medtech will be a clear area to focus on in the months and years to come. Agriculture, food, and so on and so forth, FMCG, these are not going to go anywhere, and then therefore they will continue to be strong drivers of business, of growth, and so on. Just coming to the digital part, which Sridhar has spoken a lot about, I just want to add, the factors that are going to drive this. I mean, firstly, just the fact that social distancing norms, just lower touch points between people, is just going to become a fact of life. Because as we discussed a little while ago, COVID is not going to go away as a disease. What will happen is, over a period of time, there's a lot of faith that we have in science, that we will have cure, we will have vaccine. But the exposure to COVID will continue. And then that means people's behavior change is likely to be reasonably permanent, which is low touch point. Second thing that will happen is, because of this pandemic that I spoke about a little while ago, this impact of China and so on, countries are going to become more nationalistic. They're going to say that, can we be more self-reliant? Can we do things at our own end, etc. So how does digital come in? And if I can just give you a few examples in the B2C space, Sridhar has covered fintech, he's covered e-commerce and so on. I would just like to add one more sector, which is education. Schools, colleges, higher education, what we are doing, this meeting that we are having, all of this is just becoming more and more distance learning. And this is, we have some success stories like Byju's and so on, but there is, I think, immense opportunity in the area of edu-tech, job tech, helping people get the kind of skills that will get them jobs in the new gig economy. On the B2C, B2B side, distance communication like Zoom and so on, of course, but I think a couple of other areas: AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics. I am working again with a couple of companies that are in healthcare AI, and just amazing in terms of what AI can do to help manage the, let's say, the expected and immediate shortfall of healthcare experts, the doctors, the specialists, and so on and so forth. How this can help in diagnosis, how this can help in treatment, robotics, whether it's an automotive factory or whether it's a cardiac operation. Robotics and the software behind that is just going to become more and more prevalent, because you need faster, better, and cheaper solutions. Software as a service is another area which is just completely aligned with this whole social distancing, etc., that we are talking about, which is a behavioral issue, but also software as a service in terms of having either backed by AI or backed by experts in a remote location, serving customers anywhere in the country or the world. Telehealth and so on. So these are areas which will continue to be high growth areas, but that doesn't mean that the old world is going to stop. This will coexist with the old world, whether it's agriculture, whether it's FMCG, whether it's hospitals that have to be run the way they are normally run, and so on. So I just see that this is a situation which will, the only thing that we cannot predict is how long it will take to get over. But once it gets over, some of these are going to get back and be drivers of employment, drivers of economic growth, and so on and so forth.
I just want to add one more thing, Milind, that the old world, see, if you were to look at everything from a consumer perspective, there is the basics, what in Hindi we say roti, kapda, makan, the food, the shelter, the clothing. But beyond that, there's, like you rightly mentioned, education, entertainment, health, and so many other aspects. While there's a lot of technology we are talking about on the healthcare, fintech, education side, but even in the basic delivery of food and stuff like the basic consumables, we have already seen the quick jump and shift that is happening through startups. And that's the big change that will come. We will continue to eat and drink and take medicines or whatever, but the way we will do our lives is going to be completely changed. I'll just take a stop here to get into the questions, which I think there are quite a few questions that have come. Let's try and answer some of them, Milind. Milind, are you able to see the questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So Shankar says, good morning. We thought healthcare sector is recession proof or will not be affected, but COVID-19 has proved otherwise, hitting all the private hospitals with huge drop in revenue. Do you foresee an immediate recovery of this sector after lockdown removal? Milind, right up your screen.
I mean, yeah, I just kind of alluded to the question in my earlier this thing. I do feel that this is temporary. Health issues, will continue. And I think what happens is that the elective procedures, operations, if I have a knee replacement, if I have something like that, I would postpone that, because hospitals are perhaps not a place to go to right now because of the concern about the infection and so on, as well as the fact that everybody is very busy in managing COVID. But they're not going to go away. They're going to, in fact, continue. And now with this infectious disease becoming another major factor, because the earlier focus was more on chronic disease, I just feel that the hospital sector will bounce back very quickly. The question is, during this period that they are going through this slowdown, how do they manage themselves? Because there are going to be some hospitals, some smaller nursing homes with a poor, let's say, cash flow and so on. If it's a 2-month or 2.5-month kind of stop, what happens to their cash? How do they manage? What kind of facilities are given to them by banks and institutions? So some of them may have some challenges, but as a sector in general, I just feel it's just got a significantly longer lease of life, not a shorter lease of life because of this.
Absolutely. See, for any industry, this is like, you're driving on a highway and suddenly you have a puncture and you don't know what to do because you don't have this spare tire in your dicky. You'll have to call, you'll have to wait, somebody will come fix. But then the journey goes on. So some of these stops and slowdowns that we are seeing, especially in the healthcare, I mean, who's going to stop going to a hospital? It's just that, we are ourselves as patients also. I mean, I go to a doctor once a month to do a general check. I have some problems and I have to keep checking. But I have consciously decided, hey, this is not a good time for me to go. I'm okay not going. And the hospital, by the way, has started giving me online service. So the change is happening. The hospital is waking up saying, hey, I got to do something else. So they've come on to a new, like what we are doing, the hospital is doing. You can actually interact with the doctor. You pay online and then interact with the doctor on a comp. So those are the changes. That's the change we are talking about. That this is where startups will have to step back and say, okay, I was doing what I was doing, but what is the new thing that I can do in addition to what I was doing, which can really help speed up the transformation? I'll go to the next question by Francis Joseph. It says, I provide training and mentoring programs, etc. Who are the probable organizational customers? Look, Francis, this is not really the place for that. But all I can say is that online learning is becoming the way. Every organization is going to slowly shift to online learning programs. My business, Infinum Growth, we have created exactly for that purpose. We are offering online training programs. And trainers like you is what we are also inviting to, come on and set their programs on our platform. And then we have got people who will go around and help us connect up with corporates, etc. So that's a different discussion. But yes, online is the game as far as education and training is concerned. Umar Salim, being a fintech expert, what support, where is it? What support you can propose to implement an ecosystem for indigenous technology industry in India? This is a very loaded question. I don't know. I'm not sure what I can answer in this. But I think whatever is happening is definitely indigenous in terms of the new fintech. All startups are basically sitting at home and doing. So that is indigenous technology only. How realistic is data from India and China? Is it a rosy picture projected? Francis Joseph. Well, it's the IMF saying, so we don't know about it. But you don't have to take anything at face value today because even IMF is guessing. We don't know what is really going to happen. So what is important is that we have to be cautious. The people around us have to be cautious, but life has to go on. You can't stop. Sandit says, how do economists get away with making predictions when all their previous predictions have failed? Please, let's get into that. I'm just sharing something with you. Can you please mention some of the really promising manufacturing sectors that can suit for green areas of South India? Difficult. At this point of time, we are not in that discussion into details of such things. I would say, yes, definitely we can connect up separately and brainstorm. It needs some amount of brainstorming exercise, but manufacturing per se, I'm saying, is one thing we in India did not take up seriously over the last 20, 30 years because of labor laws, etc., etc. And once IT picked up and imports were allowed, those who didn't want to do IT were started importing, and those who knew IT went more towards the IT-oriented businesses. So manufacturing has suffered, but here is a need. And if you can, in a smart way, can rethink of new ways of manufacturing and new ways of delivering goods to people, that is the innovation that we are also looking for. As we are involved into Nestle distribution and sales consulting, what's your sense in percentage terms of shift in D2C model? And similarly, the deepening of digitization. This is something which has to, D2C is really distribution to consumer, I guess is what you are saying, brand to home deliveries. There are ways to do it. Look, I've handled distribution, and what I can say is this: you still need your points to locate your goods. So you do need, and there are, in every state you will have your set of points, etc. So you may still need your distributors, etc. in some places. Will you bypass the local retailer completely? I'm not too sure, because eventually if everything for a billion people gets home delivered, then you will have a choking road just outside your house. So I guess somewhere a new balance will come between people going out to buy in the neighborhood shops. Even today, if you notice that the neighborhood shops are working, the government has allowed that. Okay, so we are going out and buying and coming, we just put on a mask and go and buy. So that's not going to stop. But a lot of other stuff will definitely start moving towards home delivery. So yes, a new balance will come. Today, I think $500 billion, if I'm not wrong, is the retail industry size in a year. And the Indian e-commerce delivery is, I think, somewhere 1% of that or something like that. So that 1% may go up to 10% or 20% or 30%. But you can't overnight assume that the huge retail thing will get stopped. You will be balancing because you have to be practical. With US and EU facing major challenges, how do you think captive technology centers will function in India in the coming months? Would they look at keeping operations up by leveraging India in the short term, but shifting jobs back to US, EU? I guess so. I don't think they can really afford to move everything out of India just because their economies are down. If their economies are down, then their needs will go down, and therefore, to that extent, the India center's work level may reduce. But it is not that they will take it away from here and get it done in the US. That may also happen to some extent. But what do you say, Miller? This question that with US and EU facing major challenges, how do you think captive technology centers of US and EU companies will function in India in the coming months? Would they look at keeping operations up by leveraging India in the short term, but shift jobs back to US, EU? Or to sort of make up for the unprecedented job loss?
Yeah, I think there is going to be a trade-off between nationalistic feelings that the politicians will bring about in terms of helping provide more jobs in the home country, on one hand, but on the other hand, the companies will require significantly higher level of technological inputs to innovate both from a product point of view, from services perspective, from business models, and so on. And there is, when they have centers in places like India, it's not only about cost control. It's also about having the right number and right kind of technical skills that we have in India, number one. It's also to do with the fact that companies can now work 24/7. When America sleeps, India works, and vice versa. So there is a lot of transfer of work that happens within a day from here to there and there to here, and so on and so forth. What will probably be impacted, which I alluded to AI a little while ago, artificial intelligence, a lot of the work that was perhaps done at call centers and so on, those kind of things may move, towards AI as you get speech recognition, as you get the ability for the computer to talk back to you with your queries and so on. So I think those high volume jobs may be impacted, but the high end technical jobs I feel will continue. In fact, there's probably going to be more need because the companies will have to innovate their way out of the challenges that they are facing today and will face in the near term.
Yeah. Umar Salim, what are the measures to be taken up for launching a manufacturing ecosystem of indigenous electronics technology in India? Good point, Umar. First thing that's going to happen, and if you've been reading the papers, you will see that a lot of international, multinational companies are now saying they want to pull out of China. Now, of course, at startup level, it may not be the first, opportunity for you. But first thing that is likely to happen is that a large number of manufacturing, companies, if they're able to come into India rapidly, and if large companies in India are able to, let's say, do a kind of a deal with such companies and set up units for them here, then the first level of technology transfer to manufacture starts happening rapidly. What will come out of that is the need for the supply chain. And that is where individual elements and individual items will start coming in as opportunities for smaller companies to really jump into. It's a very detailed thing, and honestly, I'm not a manufacturing guy, so I don't think I can really answer in detail. But what I can visualize is that the first big jump has to be done by the biggies. It has to be either the government or large multinationals who will have to trigger this whole manufacturing. But at the same time, if you have your own engineering sense, and if you are able to do something unique to meet some local needs of the market, typically consumer needs, that is what I was referring to, saying, look, there are a lot of ideas people have, but it's just that we never go for them because we say, Arey, it's difficult, abhi chodo, let's do it the other way and all. Let's do imports. But if there is a way, then this is the time. How? Some amount of thinking, of course, you will have to do brainstorming. You will have to look at, for example, the state industrial development corporations, etc. You may want to check out and from that side. You may want to look at the manufacturing industry associations, etc., and do some amount of research. But the fact is that the big push will happen if some strong brands actually come in and start manufacturing here and shifting out of China. That will be the first big step. R. Kumar, in a country like India with such a large unorganized sector, how would all the digitization impact the employment rates in the short, medium term? In a large unorganized sector, how would all the digitization impact the employment rates? See, employment rates don't change because of technology. There is some amount of technology. Fortunately, in a country like ours where manufacturing had already slowed down, bulk of our employment in the last few years has been really from the services sector. Technology will only help you deliver the service better, but at the end, you still need that last mile. So you still need that Swiggy ka ladka or Dunzo ka ladka to go and deliver. Okay, you are actually good. Swiggy, Dunzo, and these kind of guys, what is that other company, they have all given a lot more employment in the recent past. Precisely because they've used technology and they're able to do a beautifully decentralized game without having to build, formal organizations. So a lot of self-employed opportunities will jump up because of this. That's the way I'm looking at it when you're talking of the unorganized system. And everybody will start using one app or the other to actually improve their lives. I mean, I'm just looking at a simple thing. 3 years back or 4 years back, if I took a credit card and went to a vegetable shop, I would not be able to make a payment there. Today, even a small guy on the street says, "Theek hai sir, Google Pay se de do, ya Paytm se de do." That is a big change that has happened in 4 years. But that small guy who used to take cash earlier and sell vegetables continues to sit there. But his style has changed. And for you, the convenience has improved. So I don't see employment getting affected because technology comes in. I think technology comes in with new opportunities for employment, because you can then everybody doesn't have to come rushing to a metro to find a job. Somebody could be sitting deep inside in the interior and doing beautifully because he's well connected, and he could be a part of a large infrastructure which is run from Bombay or Bangalore or Delhi or Chennai or wherever, but he's a part of that infrastructure and he's beautifully connected through the electronic system, and he's doing whatever he has to do there. So it actually will drive the economy much better and generate more employment, is my sense.
Sridhar, just a time check. You want to continue with the...
Yeah. So we'll go on to the next piece. I think there are lots of questions, so we'll have to stop here. What we could do is I will ask Rohit to sort of share the questions with me and the emails, and maybe wherever it's possible, I'll try and answer them.
Yeah, no, Sridhar, what we can do is after the session, you can probably give them your contact or email if they want to have a
that's what I'm saying.
One-on-one session. Yeah,
okay, fair enough. We could do that. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll just go to the next sort of segment in this. Sorry, this is share screen. So guys, let's come to the core topic, which was startups. The whole idea of talking about the economy and the macro scene was that unless we understand that, we can't really figure out what a startup can do. And as Milind and I were sharing with you guys, this is your biggest opportunity. Think positive, look around, but be very inquisitive, and you will find it. So every disaster brings with it a fresh growth opportunity. I mean, you see a storm, after it lulls and it goes, the greenery starts all over again, the life starts all over again. That's the nature's way of rebooting. We are a part of nature as human beings, and therefore we are going to reboot. And this time we believe it is going to be the digital way. Come back to KPMG's report. There are 7 points that they have shared, and I'll quickly touch upon each of these. It says, the first point says, shift towards localization is going to happen. They are saying these are the 7 changes which are likely to become more and more permanent, which means every country will start looking inwards to see, can I manufacture internally, can I consume internally, and not be dependent on other countries, which is what we were discussing. That in that scenario, India actually stands to gain a lot more. Digital gets a real push is what we have also discussed. That's what KPMG is also saying, that you will continue to do things, people will continue to do things, and thanks to our wonderful IT sector in the startup industry, there's so much more exciting stuff happening that, you know, you will see an innovation day coming and people jumping at it. People will get more comfortable ordering on apps and doing things online compared to what they were doing before COVID, because this pressure will make them actually shift. Cash is king for businesses. This is very important for any business, especially for startups, that you have to conserve your cash. You have to be sort of planning things well, and we will take it up in the next piece. Move towards variable cost models. Again, we will be moving to this in the next piece. Building sensing and control tower capabilities. This means really setting up systems to forecast, so which means real-time data sort of analysis, etc., and a whole lot of analytics to be sure, and whole lot of alerting mechanisms to be sure that you are in control. So that is where I see a huge opportunity for a lot of IT companies to actually jump in and provide these to a variety of companies, corporates, which are otherwise not having this. They're still very manually working. Supply chain resilience is key. And again, we have seen that in the way the distribution chain thing and the online booking and home delivery will start happening. But from a supply chain, from a manufacturer's point of view or a large company's point of view also, the dependence on any one country or any one business or one organization will slow down. So today, if everybody was depending on China to supply, now people are going to stop and say, hey, what the hell are we doing? Why put all eggs in that one basket? Building agility is going to be key. We have to be flexible, we have to be fast, we have to be very responsive. So these are the 7 things which KPMG is talking about. One last comment before we go into the what and how is, startups fundamentally start to solve problems. And that's what you would have all done in the last 2 years. You thought of some problem and you started to work on it. But today, you will probably step back and look and you'll find a whole lot of new problems to solve. And that is the exciting space for startups to be in. So this is really your time. Now, let's look at strategies. Typically, startup businesses, their biggest asset is technology. And when we are talking about digital push, this becomes your biggest asset and you become the strongest person in the system. Startups are small to medium organizations, so there is agility, which is what these guys are also mentioning in the previous slide, KPMG. And most important, you are not constrained by physical fixed assets. So the Coimbatore textile company or the Salem textile company will get stuck if exports stop because they can do nothing else with the machines they have, except produce for India. And if that takes time, then they just wait. But your machine is your brain. Your ability to visualize and reprogram things and to create new products is going to be that much more faster because you're not constrained by physical assets. So there are three clear action points which we are recommending for startups. First is you protect your present business. Second is a quick pivot to meet immediate market needs, which means that while I'm doing what I'm doing, I have to protect, because it's like saying, when you sit on a plane, the first thing they tell you is when the oxygen mask drops, if the air pressure drops and the oxygen mask drops, please put it on your face first before you help the child next to you. So unless you are safe, there is nothing you can do for anybody else, including the country. So first thing first is, have you protected your own business, yourself and your team to at least sustain through this difficult period over the next few months? Then look at quick pivots to see, okay, I can do X. Can I do X plus 2 and meet this immediate market need? Because that's your revenue opportunity. Can you do that? And the third is, start thinking for the 3 months hence and 6 months hence situation and say, okay, what kind of diversifications can I do in a market which is so dramatically changing towards digital businesses? So let's go one by one. Protect the business. The first thing is conserve your cash. Move to variable spending wherever possible. How do you do that? First is cut down any cost that can be easily given up. There are things we do somewhat without really much of a thought, but we can stop it and we don't even realize that we can still do without it. So what are those C category, B category costs? Drop them straight away. Teams, but they're all very important people for you because they contribute to your product development or some amount of sales and marketing. You cannot, completely spoil the whole thing. So you have to hold on to the team, but you may want to look at a change in compensation package. What you could do is to look at a fixed plus variable option. So reduce, let's say I'm paying 100 rupees to somebody, 100 rupees full I was paying. Can I bring it down to 70 as fixed, but 30 I give as a variable? It could be in many ways, depending on your comfort and your convenience. One could be that, hey, if revenues happen, then I'll give you so much percentage of your salary. The other could be that, guys, next 6 months, I will not pay you this 30%. I'll pay you 6 months from now. Let's first build up. And third, some companies I have done is to start offering ESOPs for the amount that they're holding back. So instead of 100, I will pay you 50. For the balance 50, I will offer you ESOPs. Each entrepreneur, each set of founders have to take their decisions. We are not here to tell you how to do your business. But these are the kind of options people around us are doing. But everybody is definitely looking at this. Fundamental reason being, this is your oxygen mask. The more cash you have in hand for the next 6 months, the safer you are as a business, right? Second, just a little beyond that, if you need more people, so you're saying, hey, I was just about to recruit 5 guys or 10 guys. What do I do now? Don't stop, but look at 100% variable pay model. So instead of employing somebody, can you do a deal with that person saying, look, complete this job for me and I'll pay you for this. Because the moment he completes the job and delivers to you, you in turn can deliver to your customer, and therefore you're getting revenue which you can pay this guy. Just as a simple example I'm sharing with you, I run this online learning platform, Infinite Growth. I don't have a single employee. It's between me and my son. We run this. And all our development is done outsourced. We pay when they complete, we take it. So to that extent, we're not paying a monthly fee or a salary. We just take them, we pay them as they complete. So we know how much we want to spend. And so we develop things within that investment capability. The rest, then we are, our monthly costs are purely based on what we can afford every month in the current circumstances. So this is just an idea. People could look at it. So if, for example, you have some work going on and you need suddenly some additional work, remember there are so many other people around you, startups as well as individuals who are out of work or out of job. Maybe you want to do a side deal with them and get your work done, but pay them after completion. And when you get your revenue based on whatever you were supposed to deliver to your customer. Last point on this page is find partner businesses for sales and delivery roles or additional IT development, which is what I was saying, that find a partner business which can do it for you. Similarly for sales, I mean, like if I have, I've got some products and I have some interesting thing. I know that people are needing it at this time, but I do not have the bandwidth to go and deliver to their homes. I would probably go do a deal with Swiggy and get it done. If not Swiggy, somebody else who's there locally. So it has to become much more collaborative at this point of time. Second, seek out immediate revenue options. In addition to what you're doing, your existing product and your skill set are your biggest assets. Make the most out of the business in hand. What more can you do to solve a current problem without any major changes or in your product or in your operation systems? So you will have to step back and say, so much of problem going on. I have a technology on hand. How else can I put it? You know, typically we get stuck with what we do because we have this whole tunnel vision concept. So I only look at what I can see. I'm not looking beyond. Step back and look at the bigger picture. Don't look through the tunnel. And you will then suddenly see more opportunities because everybody is needing help here. This is a situation where whether it's a large company, small company, or individuals, everybody needs some help or the other. See how your product and your system can help. Other larger startups may be downsizing. Can you take up some of their development work? You are a 2-year-old startup and there's somebody 7 years old working, but they have decided to knock out some employees because they can't afford. Well, can you go offer your product development services to such companies and do additional work? Other businesses may suddenly have huge demands for meeting new emergencies. So because of this COVID thing, while many companies may be going down, we saw like those distribution-oriented companies where suddenly they have a 60% growth. Now they may, because of that emergency, they may not be able to do certain things because they don't have the bandwidth. You may be able to go help them out. So these are some of the things you can do in the immediate. The third one is to diversify. So once you've sort of first conserved your cash and ensured that you are there for the next 6 months, and 2, you've looked at all the immediate opportunities that can give you a little bit of additional revenue to stay afloat, use this lockdown time to actually step back and say, okay, in this new era where so much change is going to happen, so much of digital work is going to happen, what can I do? Consumer habits are going to change rapidly. They may not be going back to their old ways. So identify the likely new needs for which you will have to build. This means actually looking around consciously, talking to people, generally checking with the public, reading a lot. But this is the time to do this kind of research. You have to do that to be able to figure out what you can do more than what you're already doing. Post-COVID, a lot more people will become comfortable buying things online. It's like the demonetization story that I told you, that the moment demonetization was over, people had no choice. I don't have cash, what do I do? So I start using my cards, I do net banking, I pay by apps or whatever. The shopkeeper also, out of pressure, earlier they would refuse to accept cards. Finally, they said, "Theek hai sir, card de do, Paytm bhi de do, Google Pay bhi de do," and that's how it changes. So a lot of consumers also will start becoming comfortable to work online. And that could become your big opportunity to actually see how you can cater to their requirements. To start fast, you're small, you're 2 years old or 3 years old, you don't have too many people with you, you do need tie-ups with existing players who have the online customer reach. So instead of doing a B2C, you do what we call a B2B2C. So if a larger company has got a reach with consumers and they're already doing it, take your product, offer it to them and say, why don't you sell this too? They would actually jump at it because they're also having some amount of business drops, and they may want to make use of additional products in their portfolio to make some money. Once that is done and your product is established is when you could, over the years, build your own reach and muscle. The B2B space will see new growth areas. We've seen some of the news cuttings which talked about how transformation is what will become the focus area. Increased IT-enabled processes will become the norm for large established businesses. So there'll be a lot of work coming the way of IT people. You really, I mean, each startup is different. You have to see what are your strengths and how you can capitalize on this. This is going to become a big one over the next 6 months. The online customer connect will become a compulsion. Okay, so even with a corporate, a B2B customer, you will be able to sort of connect with them online and work, and they in turn have to be connecting with their consumers or distribution systems through the internet. And therefore, there will be a new method that will slowly get established. Medium to large IT businesses will be careful about recruiting full-time manpower. Offering them product development and management support as partners may meet their needs. So I covered that in the previous slide also to some extent, that there'll be so many. I mean, let's say tomorrow a company like Infosys is flooded with work and people are asking them to build up some platforms and all. Can you be a supplier to them of certain things? If not Infosys, somebody else. But those are the kind of big opportunities. Now, typically for small startups with have limited money in hand, it is smarter to deal with a few businesses as your customers who can pay you on time, rather than look at clear B2C opportunities. So this could be a good way to go. Collaborating with other startups to align and jointly develop new platforms and services will be a big opportunity. We can't be frog in the well kind of people and saying, hey, I'm doing a startup, I don't want to discuss with anybody else. Actually, look around, everybody's in trouble. Who do you align with and work? All businesses will be going through difficulties of one form or the other, whether they're B2C or B2B. Everyone would be happy to collaborate and synergize. The guy who told you 6 months back, sorry, not interested, would actually jump at your offer today. So completely relook at everything that you're doing and figure out how you can actually go back to the same set of people and ask them for more. Milind, anything you want to say before I move to the last slide?
Thank you, Sridhar. You covered this very well. I think I can probably just add a few softer points, more people, HR, organizational issues. I think the first is that as you look at your organization, as you're talking to your people, I think it's important to acknowledge the problem, acknowledge your concern, how big the issue is. And there are many things that we don't know. The questions that some of you were asking in terms of what the economists are saying, can we believe or not believe them, how long will it take, and so on and so forth. I think people want to see a human leader, a person who firstly acknowledges the problems, firstly who acknowledges that he's also worried and concerned, but then he also details out an action plan. What are we going to do? Why are we doing this? And so on. And the fact that you keep updating. So it's extremely important to communicate with your team. I know of organizations, startups, which are doing this twice, thrice a day, and there are others who are doing maybe once a week and so on. So you need to set your own timetable, but that's critical. And then of course the extended kind of stakeholder list, whether they are your customers or whether they are some partners, and so on and so forth. So that's number one. I think number two is that we don't know many things in this. How long will it last? What kind of problems will my employees have? What kind of issues will my customers have? And so, just thinking about what the issues can be, and then having a rapid response protocol. Who is going to respond to what kind of issues? Because you're all dispersed. You're not coming to office. You're working from homes, and suddenly one customer calls up with some issue. How are you going to resolve that? This is the time to be able to differentiate from the competition, be able to show to the customer that despite whatever the external challenges are, you're able to help them. But this will not happen unless you have a good response mechanism, a good response protocol, clearly delineating responsibilities to different people. Sridhar talked about salaries and variable compensation and so on. And I guess I've also seen people beginning to reorganize their organization, restructure their organization. There were perhaps different jobs that were being handled by different people. And today, perhaps some of those jobs can be combined. You may not want to execute the restructuring right away. You may not want to let people go right away. Um, in fact, I'm not advocating at all that that you need to start letting people go. The first thing is about managing cash through compensation and so on. But start thinking, with these external changes, what are the things that you may want to do differently in your organization? What kind of changes you may want to bring into the structure, into the departments, into the people who are there. But I think finally, I would just like to say, you got to, this is one of those black swan moments. Perhaps, hopefully, none of these will repeat in your lifetime again. This is a once in a lifetime thing. But just believe in yourself. You are an entrepreneur because you believed in yourself, because you felt that, I mean, to Sridhar's one of the earlier slides, that you have the ability to solve problems, external problems that you see with your customers. Now, there is a big problem in your organization, in your company. Believe in your ability to solve that problem. Demonstrate the resilience. One of the other traits of entrepreneurs is the fact that you are resilient, because you will come across many issues, and this is as big as it can get. Your people, your customers are looking at your leadership and your resilience to overcome this. And one of the best ways to do this is to first look after your own health, to make sure that you stay healthy, both physically and mentally, in these challenging situations. And then finally, uh, depending upon what business you are in, be ready for the bounce back. There will be a big bounce back that will happen, and just be ready to, when you do all the, going through these gloomy days and you're thinking about cutting this and cutting that and so on, bouncing back is the last thing on your mind, but it will come. And when it comes, it may overwhelm you. So just think about, if that were to happen, how are you going to manage this story? So those were some additional points to more softer, 2 points to what Sridhar said earlier. But again, I just wanted to make sure that you know that these are some of the things that many of the other startup founders and so on are thinking about and doing.
Thank you, Milind. So my set of final comments. With share markets and financial institutions under pressure, investor push will be towards conserving cash, self-reliance, and profitability. That change we are already seeing. We, both of us, Milind and I, work with an investment firm and as advisors, and we can see that everywhere their current focus is on ensuring that the companies where they have invested money are sitting safe, okay, and not doing anything rash. So conserving cash, becoming self-reliant, and becoming profitable, or at least minimizing losses and burn rates, is going to be extremely critical. At the same time, they also, I'm talking about they, investors prefer businesses that can take advantage of the current changes happening to grow faster. This is where your innovative capability and your ability to think positive and think ahead comes. So this is where, so most of the startups would be looking for investment companies very soon, if not already looking. Understand that they will be looking for companies which are looking at it positively and not sort of going into a kind of a negative mode. So look positively on how you can do. It's not necessary that what you're doing today is the best way. There may be other ways. Exports and import of goods will be limited. So India and most other countries will see growth in local production, catering to local demand. A massive opportunity for growth in manufacturing and jobs in India. I've said this earlier too, and I know it's easier said than done when it comes to manufacturing because there's so many other issues to be involved. And I'm not saying everybody should jump at manufacturing, but if manufacturing is going to happen, can you be a support system for that manufacturing business? So the point I'm trying to make is that there will be a lot more new businesses coming up because there is a need in the country, there is an import restriction, and therefore somebody has to produce stuff locally. If that is happening, it's like, because of the COVID pressure, there were some chemicals that had to be produced and factories are going overboard, or there are those, masks or whatever else. There's a sudden spurt in production happening. When that happens, there would be support system requirements. So what are these manufacturing areas which are going to crop up in around you? What is it that you can do to help them in their businesses? That will give you extra revenue. In business, there are no holy cows. Agility and smart pivoting is key to survival. Just because I'm doing one thing today doesn't mean I have to keep doing that all my life. Maybe the time is over for that. Maybe events have overtaken me. So forget it. Just step back and say, okay, I have a business on hand. I have a product on hand. Is it working? Is anybody interested in it? Not interested, don't waste time. Quickly look for what is the current problem that you can solve and jump at it. Like I said, the most flexible system to develop products is the IT system because it's in your brain and you need a computer. You don't have, those big machines which you are stuck with, like in the textile industry or in the auto industry where they can do nothing else. So be agile, be smart, pivot rapidly. All eggs in one basket may not be great. It's good to have 2 or 3 streams of revenue. I'll just share a small example, and it's not because of any trouble, but when we started my fintech startup, NovoPay, well, I was fortunate that my co-founder was also the CTO of Aadhaar, and another co-founder came from Infosys. So we had a good combination of the team. I was from a business management side, and they were really technology guys. When we put our heads together, we realized that we started for a retail-based banking job, saying that we will help people open bank accounts using Aadhaar. And we started setting up the large retail network, which is what my focus was. But my colleagues very quickly looked at enterprise businesses to see how they can deliver platforms to businesses. And they got businesses. IDFC became a big customer for us. IDFC was just about to launch a bank. They became a big customer for us. And as a result, we had 2 streams of revenue. And within 3 years, we actually broke even. And today that company doesn't, if it can continue without new investments, even if investors take time. So the important thing is quickly find out 2 or 3 streams of revenue, which don't take you far away from what you're doing, but use your sort of core product and core capability to find revenue streams in 2 or 3 directions. If one doesn't work, the other will work. It's like, what we said earlier about manufacturing flexibility or supply chain flexibility. You can't depend just on China. You have to now look at multiple options. Similarly, in your case, your revenue don't depend on one direction. Have at least 1 or 2. So if one slows down for any reason, you have the other with you. Consumers and businesses will definitely shift to a lot more online and IT-enabled methods. So online ordering, home deliveries, working from home, etc., may become the norm. Keep this in mind when you're developing your products and you're looking at how you can align with others. Visualize the new ways early so that you can quickly redesign your products and processes. capitalize fully on your core asset, which is your product development and team. That's your factory. Your brains are your factories. Maximize on it. Collaborate with others to synergize. So instead of a B2C, go B2B2C. And instead of B2B, you could even go B2B2B. So if Infosys needs some help and they find you to be too small, maybe they have another vendor who's delivering them some systems, and you could be a vendor to that vendor. So you have to be a part of a chain that is working. So quickly look around and figure out how you can align. Whatever you do, make quick moves. So that's really all that Milind and I had to share with you guys. Once again, please, do write to me. My email ID is sridhar@infinumgrowth.com, and Rohit will also share it with you. SRIDHAR.infinumgrowth, INFINUMGROWTH.com. Please write in case you need any help. I may or may not be able to do. I'll check with Milind. If not, we can help out with somebody else. We'll try and connect you to wherever we can. That's our job. We'll do that. And we do hope you enjoyed this presentation and we could help you think. That is the whole idea. Nobody can, I can take a horse to the pond, but I cannot make it drink. I can only make you think here. The rest is in your hands, what you do. Just a quick look at the Q&A. We are at 12:27. So
probably 5 more minutes.
Just one question is there. Freud Mendes, good morning, Sridhar. Milind is his name, M-I-L-I-N-D, Milind Shah. There is a huge impact on IT service companies in terms of reduced billing or cancelled or on hold projects. What are the ways these IT services companies can stay afloat? Well, this is what we have been talking all through here, that yes, the slowdown will be there. Yes, let's say if your companies have been getting businesses from the US, for example, and all your eggs were in the US basket. You will have to slow down. You will have to conserve yourself, conserve your cash, etc., and look around with a new opportunity. There is no other way. To think that 3 months from now, 6 months from now, business will be back to normal, please don't even believe it. You give yourself at least 2 years for that to happen. Till they find a vaccine and everybody of us is injected with it, there's no guarantee. So therefore, step back. This is the whole idea of this presentation, was to tell you guys, look within, look at your capabilities, your strengths, tighten up, and quickly pivot. Don't get stuck on the kind of business that you were doing earlier. Francis Joseph says, great information, agility and resilience are the key skills for dynamic environment. Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you for your comments. So that's the comments that we have covered today. Feel free to write to us, as I said, and thank you very much for being here. We do hope this has helped you. Thanks a lot, Milind, and thank you very much, Rohit.
All right, Sridhar and Milind, thank you very much. It's been a really informative session. And I want to thank all the participants also who have been attending for an hour and a half as well. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks a lot for participants. You've been patient, and I hope it's really worth the patience that you've shown. Thank you very much.